That is great. Hello, everyone. My name is Luigi de Munnik. I think most of you already know me through our fantastic work on the business operations strategy, common premises, and all that fun stuff. Today's webinar is on the high impact common service solution of this waste disposal. This is led by UNHCR. The main speaker on our panel is Mr. Israel Carrizales, who is head of the Asset Management and Fleet Maintenance Unit. Supporting us also is Sanja Vujic, who will be helping us out with Q&A and chat questions. And Sanja is the Asset Management Supply Officer. I think Israel will talk for about 30 to 40 minutes on global disposal services within their organization. And then we'll open up the floor for questions and answers for about 15 to 20 minutes. I will do my utmost best to moderate this, but I'll have you know I'm not very familiar with the GoToWebinar tool, so I might look a little bit stunted. Israel, do you want to further introduce yourself, or you just want to start with the presentation?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you, Luigi. You hear me well, right?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Good. No, thank you for the introduction, and to Diego also behind the scenes as well, fixing and making things happen, and of course for the business operations team that is providing us the opportunity to present these services, and just yeah, well, let's get started. So I'm the head of the asset. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I forgot one logistical issue.
I'm going to share. Yeah.
We remind the audience that you can write down the questions in the chat box. And as said, we'll give the time and space to ask questions live. We'll open up a mic for you, and then you can ask the questions. Also, a note that this meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be shared with everyone who's registered. Sorry for the interruption, Israel. Please take it away.
Yeah. No. Good. No, it's fine. And while I do my introduction. Okay, I see now I'm made a presenter. That was going to be my next step. Excellent. So yeah, my name is Israel Carrizales. I'm heading the team of asset management and the team for fleet maintenance for UNHCR. Just as to put us in context, we have operation and we have assets in more than 110 different countries. We have about 8,000 vehicles, and this is mainly light vehicles, more than 6,000 of them. Then we have heavy vehicles, everything that is specialized equipment. We have AVs as well. And then we have a bunch of everything that has wheels and an engine, where we're also managing. So as you will see in the presentation, we will have we are based in 5 different regions, and we do these services not for long ago. We started in 2013, but let me just probably just get started and kindly confirm that you can see my screen that I'm sharing. Good.
Yes.
Good. Excellent. And thanks, Sanja, for being on the background. Sanja is going to be controlling everything and questions and answers on the background as well. So good. So what I want to present in here is a solution that we have implemented in UNHCR since 2013. And this has been something that it has been a bumpy road. It has taught us a lot of lessons. We have now a large knowledge in everything that has to do with disposal of assets. So basically the do's and don'ts. And it all started with these questions that you see on the screen. We were trying to figure ourselves how to do this and who could help us. Today, there's no commercial entity in the world that can offer these services. Based on this, we basically had to invent it ourselves and to produce it ourselves. And the question that we normally have is, what do we do with this old junk that we have that's taking just space and we just need to get rid of it? And if I can get some money back of that investment that I made, that would be even better. And this is how we were born, let's say. Now, how do you sell your assets with UNHCR in using our global disposal solutions? So basically, something that we are offering that you can expect from us is due diligence, methodology, transparency, reliable processes, experienced staff, strong partnerships, and high returns. Now, how is this done, or how it has been done already, is that we started small and we had a lot of assets to dispose around the world. And we started doing it small and in small scale, and it started then growing by itself. And we also have agencies that they saw the potential in this, and they started joining us in our disposal events, and it all just went uphill, I must say, with a small hiccup in 2020 that we already know. So, but it has been growing since the year we started in 2013, and we're perfecting our process. And how is this helping the operations, and how is this helping our organization? It has been proven. We had an external analysis performed by Inc. that the disposal and the residual that we recover through disposal of our assets is the most effective way to reduce the total cost of ownership. So this is basically what you can see when you buy a vehicle in this case. Then you have the maintenance and the running costs, and what you get after its operational lifetime. So then the total cost of ownership is significantly reduced, and this is something that in the UN universe, there's nothing that can be compared to what we're doing today. There's no other organization that is doing this in the scale we do it, or with the efficiency and effectiveness that we're doing it today. Now, how do we do this? Is we are basically, our foundation is people and processes. So we, as I mentioned earlier, we standardize and continuously refine the process that we have for different disposal methods. Now we call it each auction type, because the principle in every disposal method is that there is a competition, that there is a competitive process behind it to produce the best revenue. And this is basically because it is in the interest of our organizations to recover as much as possible of the cost that we invested in the assets. So we have different methods to dispose. We have a very detailed process with templates in different contexts, in different players that we have in here. We have that for our own internal operations. We have those when we have guest agencies. So everything is documented. We have standardized templates. So I think this has provided our agencies with a very good feeling of a process that is well prepared, well documented, is transparent, and is a professional service. So what we do today is that we are sharing an email on the different dates that we have for our disposals, the ones that you see here on the lower left. And the current screen that you see in here is what we're going to move on to eventually. We want to move into a digitalized way of sharing our auction calendar and to have our guest agencies joining through an online formula that they can just fill in and send to us with the list of assets. This will confirm their participation into our auctions. So now, how and who and where we are is we have a large team in Budapest, which is the headquarters location. And from Budapest, we cover Europe and Asia. And then we have another team in Amman, another one in Dakar, another one in Nairobi, and another one in Panama. This is how we have that global presence, and we also have the local knowledge. And this is the part that I'll come back to later when it comes to the local knowledge. So in order to do this and to be able to operate, we have a revolving portfolio of contracts for these services. And this is mainly because we have our counterparts on the ground. They're normally registered auctioneers, they can be bailiffs, they can be lawyers or government appointees. And why we need to have a middle hand on the ground is because many times by law this is required, and also is because we want to have also that distance between the buying audience and UNHCR. So we have that person in between that will help us do all the paperwork. So just to clarify as well on this, whenever we do auctions in any place around the globe, it is always organized by the central function. It is never the UNHCR office in Burundi, or is never the UNHCR office in Bangkok or in Brasilia. It's always organized by a central function, which is our team, and in these locations that I mentioned, we are organizing this. So it's never the local UNHCR office that is organizing this. Now, how do we prepare this? We have to identify the assets to be sold. This can be light vehicles, heavy vehicles, other equipment that we have available for disposal. And another very important part is how do we identify the assets not to be sold? So assets that we do not include in our auctions are the ones listed in this slide for very obvious reasons. And we do have always to respect if there is a local regulation for disposal of specific material, whether this is hazardous waste or hazmat, we need to follow that local regulation. But as a principle, we never include this kind of assets in our auctions. Now, how do we include and how do we determine the most suitable auction type? We have three different types. The main categories is a public auction, the seal bid, and the online sale. And it all depends in security, remoteness, the number of assets, the local restrictions, and the market situation. So by market situation, we include both the economy and the political and social situation of that specific market. Now, we also have some local restrictions that will determine our decision in the type of auction. It can, just as an example, in Egypt, we can only sell to other diplomatic entities. So that makes it a very restrictive market. In MENA, for example, most of the MENA countries, we are not allowed to sell vehicles that are older than 5 vehicles because of local regulations. Another very specific example is Nepal. If we sell vehicles in Nepal, we need to check the address of the buyer, because buyers that are registered in the Kathmandu Valley are not allowed to buy more vehicles. So these are just some of the very, very narrow, specific examples of what we need to take into consideration when it comes to local restrictions. So, of course, the choice of the type of auction has different kind of revenue. So it is important to choose the right type of auction, but we also need to adjust the expectations that we have on this. Now, what is that we do in a normal year? Now I'm saying normal because right now it's not 2020, but we're still dealing with the aftermath of COVID. So that means that we still need to consider a lot of restrictions, not only in travel, but also in public gatherings in different countries. So this is affecting our normal disposal strategy that in a year would be selling a little slightly more than 1,000 vehicles, more than 100 sales events around the world, and more than 60 missions from all the team. So what we do is we basically map out where do we have the different assets and who is the responsible person for that. We need to make sure that that resource is not overlapping. And if there's an overlap, then we have another member of the team jumping in if possible, but we do have a very tight calendar. So it's quite challenging to make changes. But as you see, there's plenty of activity that we need to do. So we do have our priorities and we go on volumes with these priorities. Now, what do we do is we need to have, first of all, the documentation whenever the assets need to be legally transferred to the buyer, and that's the condition to release the assets. We need to have the full documentation. We have as well the choice of the auction site based on the number of assets that we have identified for the sale, and this is also considering the guest agency. So if any of your agencies want to join to the auction that we're going to have now in Niamey next month in Niger, then we need to have a list of assets that you plan to sell, and that would also determine the size of the auction site and the location. Then we do the transportation of these assets into the auction site. We do the advertisement. We hire the security and some local equipment for audio and video if required in the auction yard. And then, of course, we have the mission of our staff into this event. So what happens on site is that we need to have crowd control. I'm not sure how many of you have been witnessing or have been part of one of these events. I'm sure that that you have seen it or you have at least heard of it in one of your countries where we have a UNHCR auction. And I'm saying this with a lot of confidence because after this many years, we have probably done 700 auctions throughout the world. So we've been basically in all the corners of the globe. Now, how we do this is we need to manage the site logistics, access management, registration, screening of participants, collection and reimbursement of participation fees, crowd control, recording of the bids, issuance of bill of sale, release the assets that are paid full on site. I need to make a parenthesis on this, that The release of assets that are released on the same day are those that do not require a legal change of ownership or a tax payment by local authorities. So, for example, this is the kind of asset that we would have laying around in our yards, and you don't know what to do with this, but there's always a use for this, and there's always a buyer willing to pay some money to get this asset. So normally, and in a regular operation, when you come and you see this on your yard, you would probably imagine that you need to pay someone to remove this and to scrap it, whereas going through a disposal method, you can actually get some money out of it. The same goes for very, very common assets that we all have, such as vehicles. This always have a market. There's always an opportunity to recover your cost. It doesn't matter where you are and the condition of the asset, there's always an opportunity to recover some part of your investment in these vehicles. So now what we do after the auction closure, we document everything. So these are some of the documents and that you would be expecting to receive after one of our officers will finalize the auction. We do everything that is required to ensure the taxes are paid, the money is received, the release of the vehicles is done. Everything is in paper. We digitalize it. We provide it to our agencies, and of course, we send you the revenue of that specific auction after the fees have been recovered for our services. Now, I haven't mentioned earlier the fees that we're charging, so I'll go to it on the next slides. So we do have two different charging models. One is 8% of the total gross that we produce for an agency. We would charge that. And that is something that for many agencies is the preferred model, or I would say for all the agencies that we have today, all of them except one is using the 8%. Now we also have the other charging model, which is a prorated division of the costs based on a 26% cost for one single auction. So that means that the number of lots will be divided by 26,000. And this is only used by one agency, but we know and we have seen that using this model will restrict many of their operations to dispose of small value items because it becomes more expensive to put them on sale with this second charging model than using the 8%. Because if you use the 8% and if you sell an asset for $400, then you'll be just paying $32 for that sale. So yeah, this model is these are two different models. It's an 8% and 26,000 divided by the number of lots. As I said, only one agency is using the 26%. All the others are using the 8% because it's economically more convenient for them and for the type of assets that they want to dispose of. Now, we have already global SLAs with 3 agencies. You see them in the circles, and we already have a couple of more SLAs that are currently on the making. And we also distribute currently the auction calendar twice a month to these agencies that you see on the screen. And well, we have had only good experiences with invited agencies, with guest agencies. I don't say bad experiences with what I would say challenging experiences, and we always learn when there is a challenge, and that makes us better to perform the next auction because we have a knowledge in there. Now, I think we're reaching the end of the presentation. So I hope that we have some questions already on the panel, and that we can do something to start going through. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Through this presentation. So I would say that maybe we should move on to the question and answers section.
I am having a look at the chat. I don't see anything. Maybe I'm missing something. I'm asking Sanya.
I responded already to 2 questions, but if attendees would like to pose the question, they can raise their hand and we will address.
Yes, there's 2 hands raised, a couple of questions in the chat box. There was also a short video, Israel. I don't know if you wanted to show it now or a little later.
Oh, great. Thank you, Diego. I missed that link. Let me see. I'm going back. Sorry. Thanks for that. No, it's actually not linked in the presentation. We have it uploaded in here. So let me just show you the video of an actual auction that we've had. And Luigi, can you tell me if you see the video?
There's something happening, yes. Yes.
Toyota Land Cruiser. Lot number 9 Toyota Land Station Wagon. Station Wagon. Lot number 9. Okay, 10 million. 11. 10 million. 13. 13 million. 13, 14. 14 million. 19. 22. 24. 25. 26. 26. 30. Million ya 3. 31. 32, 35, 35, 500, 37, 37, Mara kwanza 37, Mara pili 37, Mara tatu 37, ticket number.
Israel, are you mute?
Yeah, I'm back now.
Okay.
Good. So great. Now I think we can go to the questions. Now, you said we had 2 hands raised, Luis.
Yes, we do. We have 3 now. So we'll start with Senada Vasovic. Senada, the floor is yours. Please go ahead. You should be able to unmute now. Senada, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't want to ask anything. I just wanted to say that I'm here and say hello to all of you. Sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. So, ciao.
Ciao. Nice. So we have also Maral Marcarian. Maral, floor is over to you.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity. It was really good. My name is Maral Marcarian. I'm assets manager in the same time ICT head for OCHA office in Jordan. My concern is because I deal a lot with disposals and we sell items and stuff. Do you have a list of items that needs to be taken out of equipment when you sell, when you donate? Like, let's say in the cars, I'm sure you remove the radio stations that are installed in it. My concern is a laptop or a desktop. Do you remove the hard disk?
No. This is
because coming from an, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because coming from an ICT background and dealing with such sometimes confidential, and always in the United Nations, it's always the data is a concern of ICT. So, and we know very well, of course, you format once, twice, 3 times. If somebody wants to return something, they would do it, although I doubt it happened. But again, it's a concern. In some offices I worked with, they were very keen about destroying the hard disk and selling the item, the laptop without it. In some offices, they would say, no, you just make sure that you have done it. I'm very interested to know what's your approach. The same with the mobile phones, for example. Thank you very much. This is my question.
Yeah, thank you, Meral. No, it's a good question, and it's definitely a current question that we have as well. So a specialized communication equipment, we at UNHCR, we try to stay away from. So we don't want to sell it because of the risk of missing the reset or the erasing the configuration of this, and having a risk of someone that doesn't belong to the UN having access to our communication channels. So UNHCR, we don't do it. But when it comes to personal mobile devices such as tablets, telephones, or computers as well. So there is a common practice in some UN agencies where there is a cleansing process. So there is their IT department, they would have a cleansing protocol depending on the type of item, where they will wipe out all of the information from the devices, making sure that there's no way to either access the restricted systems of the UN organization, or to make sure that there's no data that can be recovered or that can be somehow be carried on with the device after the sale. So there are protocols that will cleanse this information from different devices, but this, although it is a common practice, I haven't seen a common approach on all the UN agencies. But we do have that in place for our personal use devices. Is this answering your question?
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right. And just by the way, Meral, we do have our contact, or let's say our focal point in OCHA. They are sitting in Geneva with your supply and procurement. So we do have a coordination for this kind of events centrally with OCHA.
One last thing, it would be great if I can have contact or any way to at least talk to the ICT person, because I'm ICT, that's why, to know like they can insure me on the procedure or something that we can also handle. So if by email you can send me or something that we can talk to the people who are really ensuring that this is wiped out or something, or through our assets manager in OCHA also.
Yeah, that has to be internal. That has to be an internal process, Meral. We
Oh,
don't do this on behalf of other agencies.
Okay,
The
sure,
cleansing,
sure.
Yeah, the cleansing process is internal.
Yes, of course. No. I mean, just to get ideas from them to learn, but I would do that through our assets management. It's better in OCHA.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Thank you, Maral, for the participation. Next up, we have GM Kamruzaman. GM, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And just to let everybody know, we are receiving the questions in the chat box and we're addressing them as best as we can. If not, we will also follow up with a frequently asked questions document that has all those answers that we did not get to here. GM, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. This is JM Kamrujaman from FAO Bangladesh. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions, just quick question to you. I am the asset and inventory focal point of FAO Bangladesh. Sometimes I need to dispose the old and obsolete item as well as old vehicle also. So my first question is that in FAO manual section, if I want to sell any vehicle, here is the format, prescribed form, and here is mentioned, you have to mention the minimum bid price of the vehicle. And the price should be assessed and set by the third party here in Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Sorry, GM, do you mind turning off the music on the background, because I cannot hear you. I just hear music on the background.
I think somebody is unmuted.
Ah, someone is unmuted. I can. Okay, go ahead, please. Yeah, no, I think I got your question, or at least most part of it. Let me know if I understand it right. So yes, we do have that kind of situation in several countries, not only Bangladesh. So one of the first steps that the guest agency, in this case, I don't know what agency you're working with, but the first step that needs to be done by an agency that wants to join one of our disposals is that they need to ensure that they have all the permits and applicable documents required to sell their assets. So that means that if you and your organization in Bangladesh, according to the MOU that rules your credit in that country, that you need to require a permit from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to sell certain assets, then you need to do it. But this is done by the agency. It's nothing that first of all, we don't have the power to do that on behalf of other agencies, because that would require a power of attorney for doing this on behalf of other agencies. So this is normally done per agency, getting the sales requests and applying for it. And when it comes to the reserved price, this is basically an estimation of what you would consider that is a fair value for the asset based on the market, on the number of assets of the same type, the number of people in your audience, and the seasonality of it. So it's not a simple formula, but it's based on different factors. Is this answering your question?
Yes, but what you mentioned that, the vehicles are running in FAO Bangladesh, or not only FAO, for all the UN agencies, they are using the yellow plate, which is the totally different and different plate, number plate for the UN agencies, and nobody is dealing with these vehicles, and nobody is purchasing, and nobody is authorized to do any business with these types of vehicles. So my question is, how is set the minimum bid price by the third party?
Well, as you were describing it, if you're not allowed to do business with these vehicles in Bangladesh, then I would suggest you redeploy them to a different operation. This is what we do.
Okay. And my second question is for the IT equipment. There is also mentioned that we need to first contact with the waste management team first for destroying this IT equipment. But here in Bangladesh, there is no such types of organizations or any third party who are doing this or who is managing this waste management. So how do I damage this or scrap or demolish these IT equipments?
That is basically down to the local regulations. Many of the countries will have established regulation for disposing of electronic devices. So what I would suggest is that first you go through this regulation that is existing in most of the countries. And in some of the countries you have to pay, in some countries you will get paid for delivering these old items, because they will break them down and pull out the parts that are reusable.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, GM. We are receiving all of your questions in the chat box, and I think Sanya is doing her best to get to them. But once again, we will follow up with the document afterwards. Next up with the hands raised, which we want to give space to, Orhine Renfurum. You can go ahead and ask your question. The floor is yours. You should be able to unmute yourself. Okay, Orhine, I'm not seeing you anymore. You should be able to unmute yourself, Orhine or Gine. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Renfurum. Okay, we're gonna go over to the next question with a hand raised, which is Usman Sahur. Usman, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Usman, are you there?
Usman, I think you should be able to unmute yourself at this moment. There you are.
Yes.
You should be able to hear you now.
I've just been unmuted. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, colleagues, and thank you very much for this excellent presentation. I have a couple of questions, so can I go in one go, or should I ask one by one?
Maybe. What do you say, Luis? Should we bundle a number of questions, because I see that we have one. We have Saigham, Julita, Wisa, and who else is there? Sukhuma, Rowenda, and Raymond. We still have a number of question marks here.
We can go ahead and bundle them if that's okay. So Usman, go ahead with all your questions, and we'll also take a couple more, and then if they overlap, Israel can address them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. My first question will be, I've joined 5-10 minutes late, so probably you might have addressed this thing. So who will be leading the process within the country context? Will it be UNHCR office in Pakistan, or will it be dealt by, at the headquarter or regional office level? This is my first question. Second question is, what will be the mechanism of sharing the list of assets for disposal among the agencies? If any agency wants to join this disposal process, how would this mechanism be defined of sharing the list? How occasional this list should be shared? And third, the most important one is we have bigger agencies like UNICEF, UNHCR, UNDP, WFP, PAO, who have like huge admin departments and who manages their actually asset disposal processes as well. So what benefits will these agencies, funds and programs get if they join this common disposal asset system? These are three my questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Usman. We'll try once again with Orhine. I'm sending you an unmute request for Gine. If you can go ahead with your question. See, you're still there. You can go ahead and unmute yourself at any point. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Yes, my name is Orshin. I'm from the Suriname office, UNDP. I have also dropped my question in the chat box, but I will take the chance for now. Okay, so my question is, maybe you have informed us about it, but it's not so clear to me. This unit, is it mandatory that an office uses this unit to do asset disposal? Because we are in Suriname, and I noticed that you have that this office has some officials in different countries, but the thing is to ship the goods to the assets to the different location. So I was wondering, is it mandatory for us to do that?
Yeah, sorry, just to put this question into context, what organization are you working with?
I'm from the UNDP.
Okay, yeah. Then, yeah, and I noted this question. I'll use it. I'll respond it. Do you have another question?
No, that is my question.
Okay.
Thank you, Orshin.
Yeah, let me take these 3 questions. I think these
Sure.
are overarching question that is important to cover. So the first question is who will be leading the process? So this is basically UNHCR is the service provider, and is UNHCR leading the process from a headquarters perspective, from a headquarters function. So that means that that no local UNHCR office would be involved in delivering disposal solutions. It's always from a headquarters perspective. Now, you also had a question regarding how the big agencies, they have admin and they have this large groups of supporting functions, but it is still a big mechanism that is required to do the disposals. So we already have some examples. We have FAO with a global SLA. So that means that all of their agencies are free to use or encouraged to use UNHCR services and disposal solutions to get rid of their assets. We also have a global SLA with WFP, so we provide these services to WFP, and we have the same for UNFPA. We provide these services globally for UNFPA, and UNFPA is also renting vehicles from us, but that's a different solution we're providing for them. But when it comes to disposal solutions, we already have agencies that have joined and that have decided that this is for them the best solution, instead of creating a new group or trying to make this decentralized is not an option for them. Because also when you have disposals organized at a local level, you expose your local staff to any people in that region that has some sort of power. They can have a sort of entitlement to some of the assets that are being disposed. So if you put local staff into this, they can be put into a position that they can be extortion, or they can be pressured to either award some items or accept special prices. So that's why some of the big agencies have decided to go with UNHCR to avoid putting their local staff into this position. And yeah, so that answers that question. And I don't know, and I haven't heard that there's a mandatory to use this unit for the disposals. I think this is at an organizational level. I know UNDP has used our services in different countries, but this is always a decision at the country level. In some of the agencies that have already signed, as I said earlier, a global SLA, they are encouraged to go through our disposal methods and using our services. So good. Can we go to the next questions? Who do you have in line, Diego?
Yeah, so we have Farida Farouk. Farida, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yeah, this is Farida from Bangladesh UNICEF.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
My question is that means that we have to do the SLA with UNHCR or the in a headquarters, so that we can participate in your auctions. Yeah, as
That's
in
a good
Bangladesh, I
question.
haven't seen that UNHCR doing the local auction for other agencies. So I
Mhm.
think we have to put the SLA first, then we will go for the participation. Is it okay? Is it right?
Yeah, you're right. So just in the specific case of Bangladesh, we haven't done an auction there for many years, and this is because of the current situation in the country. We're not allowed to make sales locally, so we basically redeploy our assets back to one of our hubs. We have a hub in Bangkok, we have a hub in Dubai, and in Europe. So we would redeploy our assets because local sales are not really allowed in Bangladesh. Now, the first part of your question is how do you join? You have two alternatives. You either have a global SLA that opens this window to all the operations for one single organization under a global SLA with a specific charging model, or you can join individually by signing what we call an auction service provision agreement. So it's basically a document that we use for one auction, one day, one location. And this is basically a one-time contract compared to the global SLA. So it is possible to join one single auction event, or you can also do it by having a global SLA at an organizational level.
Okay,
Good.
in that case, we have to transfer the equipment to that other country, or it will locally, you have arranged someone to take care of all these assets which UNICEF is trying to sell. They will collect it. I'm a little bit confused. That's why I'm asking all these questions.
Yeah, I think in your case, I think we would need to evaluate the situation locally, and this is because all of the agencies have different memorandums of understanding per country. That means that the status of that organization and the different conditions of that organization in that country, they can vary from agency to agency and from country to country. So I think what we could do is we could look into your individual MOU for UNICEF in Bangladesh, see what are the conditions that you have, and if you can do a sale locally, I would definitely recommend a local sale. But if it's not, then you need to look into redeployment.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Farida.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please go ahead and put your question in the chat box. We will get to it at some point, as we mentioned. But for the hands raised, we have Sukuma Mutikul. Sukuma, floor is over to you. Sukuma, you should be able to unmute yourself right now. There you go.
Good evening, good afternoon,
Good
everyone.
evening.
Yes, I'm calling from UNDP Bangkok in Thailand. From your presentation, I understand that it is like global disposal asset process, right? And then
Correct.
you combine the demand around UN agencies in different countries.
That is
And
correct.
then yes, and you combine in the big lot and go for bidding process competitively. I heard that I just wonder how can the bidders receive the bid asset? As you said, you have the hub in Bangkok, and if I'm in Bangkok, that means I should deliver the bid items to your hub in Bangkok for your documentation process and bidding process further by getting approval RAD according to UNDP POPP of the asset disposal process, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, if so, it would be convenient, and you will combine the whole lot, and you call for global competitive process. Am I right?
Correct. So
Israel,
yeah,
would it be okay if we bundle? We still have about 8 or 9 hands
good.
raised, and I know we're almost
Let's
out
do
of
that.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
We'll
My question is, when you do it every couple months, or by mid-year and by year end, or until you can combine adequate demand of asset disposal items. And
Yeah.
may you kindly repeat the fees again, please, because we have to compare. From my country, we are proximity to the location of your Bangkok hub, and we just deliver it to your hub and leave it with your competitive bidding process, and just pay the fee. That's all.
Great. Thank you,
I
Sukuma.
see. Thank you.
We will address that coming up. Sipta Yama Tusanda, if you would want to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Yama. I'm from UNESCO Jakarta. And actually, my question is quite similar to our previous colleagues from UNICEF Bangladesh and from Bangkok. We are in Jakarta, Indonesia, so we are quite close to Bangkok, but actually, I never heard about this disposal strategy by UNHCR in Indonesia. So has it ever been done here before? And if yes, who should I contact locally here? Is it the agency or directly to you guys?
Yeah,
Thank
directly
you.
to us.
Thank you,
Thank
Yama.
you.
We'll address it in a second. One last question, Nazi Tavakoli. Nazi, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for organizing this session. My question is related to the disposal of retiring security items. I'm just curious how you guys are doing when it comes to radios. What is your procedure? I understand that this is not something that we can get any support as per your presentation for selling, but I'm curious to know what is your approach when it comes to these items in your own agency. Over to you. Thank you.
Next question.
The next question is by Yulia Sisoyeva. Yulia? You can try. Hi, we can hear you now.
Nice presentation, and hi Luigi, nice to see you. Really very helpful, and thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and expertise, and to see what's going on actually in the field and how we all can work together. But I already posted a question, but somehow I have additional ones. It's also related to the ones raised before regarding evaluation of the process itself. I can understand when there is a presence in one field, yeah, so these services can be used by the UN agencies. But as others already mentioned, if there is a presence like in different countries, so it's not only about the cost that should be evaluated to understand the experience of the disposal through the auction, for example, which will be done by you, but also about the all processes from the legal perspective, as you mentioned already, taxes. So as I understand, this should be done by the agency who would ask you to provide the services, but it also then need to be assessed and evaluated the capacities that are needed, you know, for that also. For, I mean, how much it would cost and what are the rules and regulations. Do you have any, I don't know, guidance or something that would be helpful for other agencies already, you know, to understand if it is reasonable to move into this auction and to use these services? As you used an example, for example, of a tire with like a wheel to sell for $1,000. but if the costs and the work to be done to proceed will be like 1,200, then we will have losses instead of profit, you know. So this is like the whole big things, big volume of things I think to be considered, not only money-wise, you know, just to selling. So thank you very much. And also one more additional question. You mentioned several times that like always that everything is sold, but have you had the cases when something actually hasn't been sold? And do you charge agencies in this case? Thank you.
Great. Would you want to address those questions, Israel?
Yeah, sure. No, very good questions, and I think now I know that next time I need to go deeper on the financial part. So yeah, reminder on the fee. So we have two charging models, and the base for these two charging models is always going to be we start with the auctioneer's fee. So basically, the fee that the auctioneer is charging us is either regulated by law or it's the result of a competitive process through a tender. So this is something that we cannot move, we cannot negotiate. So that's always the baseline, is the auctioneer's fee. Many countries, the practice is that the seller is not paying any fee, but the buyer is paying the fee. In any case, the final price will be affected by this fee. And this is something we don't control. This is outside the control of UNHCR, and this is a fee that you would pay whether you go solo or you go with UNHCR. Regardless, it's always an auctioneer's fee involved, and this is the baseline. Now, the two charging models that we have is the 8% of the gross that we make or that we produce for each agency. That is the auctioneer's fee. So let's use your example. If you have a couple of tires that you see that they're lying on your yard, and you see you need to also estimate what can be what is my break point for this kind of assets. That means how much effort do you need to move this into the auction location compared to what you're expecting to receive. So it is, of course, let's say not a business case, but it is a decision that needs to be made on the amount of assets that you have and how much do you expect to have. Now, also the question came on, would you be charged if the item is not sold? And the answer is no. In the 8% model, you're not charged if the assets are not sold. Whereas the second charging model, that's a different charging model, is based on a 26,000 base amount that, according to our statistics, we have estimated this is the total cost that it would take us to organize one disposal event. So the amount of lots that we would have in that specific auction will be divided by the number of participants. So this $26,000 is divided by the number of lots, and then of course belonging to each agency. So in this second model, then your low item assets such as these tires, for you is not worth to put them or to use this second charging model, because you would be paying more or you would probably earn nothing when putting this into an auction with the second charging model. If you put them with the 8%, that means that if we sell these tires for $875, that means that we will be charging you around $65, $66 for our services. The other that you need to consider out of those $800+ that you would have is the transport, etc., and whatever effort it takes you to dispose of this 2 tires, which in any case you would have incurred, even if you don't participate in an auction. So now the next question was, when do you decide to do an auction? This was from Indonesia. Unfortunately, you missed that because we already had an auction in Indonesia earlier this year, the same in Thailand. So we do have, of course, requests from different agencies to organize auctions. We see the number of assets that we receive, and based on this, we decide if there's going to be a disposal event or not. Of course, we're not going to organize one single auction for 2 tires. So this probably already a given by anyone that is planning to have a disposal. So we need to have a volume of assets to ensure that there's going to be a revenue and that we're going to recover the costs that we're putting into organizing a disposal. So if we, for example, in Indonesia, we had like 7 or 8 vehicles that we disposed, and then we had a couple of other agencies that expressed their interest, and then we had a good number of assets to do this. And the other question was regarding rules and regulation. This is, I think this is a very wide area, but the main reason we hire an auctioneer locally is to take care and to observe the rules and regulations locally, because we don't want to be involved in that part. This is something where we need to have a bailiff, an auctioneer, or a lawyer that is acting as the auctioneer to make sure that this is taken care of. But this does not include the UN agency responsibilities and obligations. So these are 2 different things. The next question was for the ICT items. Yeah, whenever we don't allow the sale of this, we destroy them, and we use the local regulations established in that country for destruction. So normally ICT items will have specified channels per country for the destruction. So you would take them somewhere, they receive them, and they do the proper disposal of them. And of course, this is not optimal because we need to pay for that. It's not that we're receiving a revenue, but we pay for that for our own operations. And the agencies that have this similar restrictions for their ICT items will probably be doing the same. Good. Now, let's see if we still have any questions.
We do. We have about 5 or 6 more hands raised. Let's see if we can get them in one go. We have, I'll just say the order so you can be ready. Asil Al-Katab, Adnan Haji Sadudikovic, sorry for mispronouncing, Firas Hana Kavita Kapoor, Senada Pasovic, and Jupiter Chakma. So we'll start off with Adnan. Adnan, please go ahead.
Yes, colleagues, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, hello, greetings to everybody from Sarajevo, from UNHCR office in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Just one question, actually part of my questions were already answered by Israel about who is leading the process, etc. But just few practical questions, because this initiative or program, or how you call it, is intended actually that UNHCR is leading the process. So, and as also part of the common service activities within this business operation strategy at the country level. So if we agree at the OMT level that this activity should be considered as kind of potential common service to be offered to other agencies, what would be the process? And if we have, I mean, out of all UN agencies in the country, some of them might be interested for this, what would be the process? What would be actually what would be actually how what UNHCR should do? Because actually I understood that SLA should be signed at the headquarters level between agencies. So we should ask in that case those agencies who have been interested, who expressed interest to join that, to contact first their headquarters for this SLA to be signed at headquarters level. So that's my first question. Then, how the local procedure should be done? I mean, if some of those agencies come up with assets to be sold, do they share information, actually the list of those items at the headquarters level, or it is shared at the country level, at the OMT level, and then UNHCR from that country actually sharing those lists with the headquarters, because actually UNHCR headquarters leads the process. So of course, we are not doing here anything locally. We always did our auctions through headquarters. And and if there is an auction to be organized, for example, in Sarajevo and Bosnia and Herzegovina, so is it the same procedure for us, for UNHCR office here, to provide administrative assistance to our headquarters in Budapest, to UNHCR, about preparing all papers for the auction, these auction reports, etc. Thank you.
Sorry, I understand it right. Are you UNHCR?
Yes. We are UNHCR, so we are here, and we used to have, recently also a few auctions, mainly for vehicles, but in any case, any other item could be included. So I'm just interested how UNHCR should proceed in those situations.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Thank you, Adnan. Next up is Firas. If I could ask you colleagues to be as brief as possible in the interest of time. Firas, over to you.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. And thanks very much for this informative session. Yeah, this is Firas from UNFPA Iraq Country Office. I had a couple of questions, but already has been asked by my colleagues. One of them that is regarding, is there any restriction giving such kind of services in those countries that they have somehow high level of security level, which is somehow it is in the red. Second question is including Iraq, because in Iraq we have a main office in Baghdad and sub office in Erbil. The second question is regarding if you can share with us the guidance or those things, or any relevant document that we can be familiar with it, and in the future maybe we can use it. Currently in Iraq office we have around four vehicles. It needs to be it's already out of our assets, and I already did from my side. I contacted UNHCR just to inform you that there was happened in UNHCR Erbil. They had the OPUSH in Erbil, but they didn't do it from their side. I think that they handed to the third party. So I had my contact with them, but in any way they couldn't support. They said that if you want, we can do it. We can be a connect to the third party. So currently, as I mentioned, that we have this number of vehicles, and I'm waiting for somebody to help on this. So I hope if you can share with us these documents, and I will share it with my supervisor to get the approval, and then we can move ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Firas. Next up, we have Kavita Kapoor. Kavita.
Yeah, good evening, colleagues.
Good evening.
I'm Kavita Kapoor. I'm from India Country Office. My first question is that I just wanted to be very clear on this aspect, that do we have to first enter into an SLA? If so, then can we have the details what are required for an SLA? My second question is that do we have a local presence of UNHCR in Delhi, more specifically, or in other parts of India, so that we can use these services? And thirdly, like UNICEF has a presence in different states of India. So can we be able to include all the different states in one SLA? And my fourth question is that we have only covered the disposal through auction. So we have not spoken about closed bids. So can we have something from you on that aspect also? And my another question is that if we do have a presence, local presence, then we have to physically move all the assets to the auction site. And because in India we have e-waste e-waste regulations devised by the government of India. So we cannot sell any IT related equipment through auction, but we have only vehicles which can be sold through auction process. So for selling the vehicles, like we normally take the earnest money from the prospective buyers so that the vehicle should get registered in the name of the buyer. And then once it gets registered, then only we return the earnest money to them. So do we have to do this process outside this process and do it from our side? How to go about it?
Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Senada Pasovic. Senada, I think you had gone earlier. Not sure if that's an old hand. Let us know. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Sanada, I'm from UNHCR Sarajevo. Actually, I wanted to ask you in regard to the ICT equipment. As I understood, the policy is that it should be sold as well, like vehicles. And my question is, for example, if we cannot sell it on the public auction because it's being outdated and can't be software updated, what can we do with those equipment? Can we transfer it instead of to be destroyed, as you mentioned earlier? What is the policy? What is the actually practice on the field?
Thank you, Senada. Last up, we have Jupiter Chakma. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think you all hear me. Good evening from UNICEF Bangladesh office. Thank you for your nice presentation. I really enjoyed that. My question is not a little bit different. I'm just trying to know, wondering that what is your approach regarding the safe disposal? Like we dispose some items like tires and other items which usually reused by the buyers, and that could be an unsafe use by them, which may come back as some unsafe road accidents or unsafe behaviors that may cause. So my question is that either do you have any any program to ensure that once the buyers receive the items and they are using they are using the disposal manner so that it's not harmful to the society, because we also have some responsibility on that, even we generate some fun after selling them. Over. Thank you.
Thank you, Jupiter. I see Asil Al-Khattab, you had your hand raised for 55 minutes, so go ahead. Last question. Asil, you're unmuted. Should be able to. Yes, we should be able to hear you. You speak up. Can you hear us? Okay. So I think we'll go ahead the questions that we have, Israel, and then close off after that. Over to you.
Good. Excellent. Oh, okay. Asil,
now we
go
can
ahead.
hear you.
Yes, hello, this is Asil, WFP Iraq. My question is, my first question actually is whether the session will be recorded, as I missed the first 30 minutes of it. Sorry, trying to log in. My second question is that in Iraq here we have like a number of we have been following the auction with closely with UNHCR, and as we have a number of obsolete items belonging to IT, some furniture, as well as soft-skin vehicles. So we don't know what's the situation for Iraq with regards to this global auction strategy. How does it apply to Iraq, and whether an auction in Iraq will be held soon? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asil. Over to you, Israel.
Good. Thank you. Okay, let's take Iraq just because we're already on that topic, and we have already a question from UNFPA there. So yeah, for WFP, we have the global SLA, and if you are interested in participating in one of the disposals, we actually have one I see here in my calendar for the end of November, programmed for Erbil. It's not confirmed yet, but we have it there. So in the case of WFP, you need to contact your central unit, your asset management unit, and then let them know that you want to participate in here. And then they will take it from there. This is the way that we work with one of our agencies. Well, actually, with all of them, they have a central contact, and this goes as well for UNFPA Iraq. You have a team in New York that is assisting in the disposal and the ordering as well of new vehicles, because we do have vehicles that we rent to UNFPA. So in the case of Iraq, both agencies, they can contact their counterparts centrally and raise their hands to participate in one of our auctions. So just for your information, I heard from UNFPA that, but this is more a technicality for Iraq. There is an issue with selling vehicles registered in Erbil, selling them in Baghdad, and vice versa. But this is, again, one of the tropicalizations of the disposal process. But we can talk to that on that later. If you put your question on the list of questions, we'll let you know who is your focal point centrally. Now, the question from, I think it was on the OMT, and if they want to test the disposal solutions for a specific location, yes, you can discuss this with your OMT colleagues. And if they want to join, I mean, it's not necessarily, they don't need to have a global SLA. They can try the service one time, see if they like it. And for this, we have a one-time contract that it can be done for one location for one disposal. So it's not an issue. You can participate. It doesn't need to be a long process. And I think this was also the question in India. We do have operations in India, and we have performed disposals there. So we can do it. We just need to have the number of assets to be able to determine if there is an opportunity to do something and when, based on the number of assets. And we do have the different alternatives for different disposal methods, which you will find in the presentation that was attached to this webinar. And that's, we can do public auctions, we can do seal bids, we can do onlines. So it's we have different methods to do it. And I think if I captured the question correctly, you were talking about the returning of the money to the buyer in case there is not a successful sale. So this is something that we don't do. There is a concept that we call a participation fee, which is basically a deposit that everybody is putting in order to be able to bid for vehicles or for high value assets. So if there is a winning bid and then the buyer pulls out for any reason, this deposit is not refundable. So there's not returning the money. I mean, it's so this, if I understood the question right. Now for Sarajevo and the disposal, this is more of an internal UNHCR question. There is a policy, and we have those questions. We can answer that if you can write an email to our functional mailbox, which is called assets@unhcr.org. We will be able to answer this question regarding your ICT equipment. And the last question I captured in here was if there is some sort of follow-up or some sort of quality assurance or a way to ensure that the buyer is using the assets they bought through us responsibly. The answer is no. We do not control or make any kind of monitoring or checking if the buyer has bought a bicycle and then put an engine and on that bicycle. We don't control that. So whatever the use that is given to the assets that we sell, whatever the use is given after we have sold them, is we don't take any responsibility on that. We sell the assets as is where is. That means that these assets will be sold in the condition and in the place where they are being displayed. So we do not follow up or take responsibility on how these assets are being used after they have been bought. Good, so that was the last question I had in here. Is there any other hand that came as a late runner?
No, I think that's it, Israel. Thank you so much to you and Sanya for staying the extra minutes, for everybody also for listening and participating. We will be following up with the questions on the chat box as well as a recording. And we thank you all for coming and assisting and participating. And we look forward to seeing you in the other webinars as well. Thank you very much. This webinar has ended. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.